Good day, everyone. Today is another set of lessons in Mathematics 9. We will be focusing on competencies for the second quarter. Let's start. The focus of the lesson will be on variation. But before that, we will be recalling some of the concepts in mathematics that we had when we are in grade 7. Okay, so when we are pertaining to variables, sometimes we have misconceptions in dealing with the variables. Sometimes we say that it is the letters in an equation. Yes, because variables are represented by English alphabet or it could be Greek letters. Okay, so these are some of the examples of variables. So variables are measurements. These are, it could be size, weight, mass, temperature, area, volume, time, angle measure, and distance. So when we are pertaining to constants, these are sometimes represented by E, or it could be a mu or pi, which has its own values. So when we are now having variation, it pertains to the relationship of two or more variables. So one is the independent variable and the other one is dependent. Okay, so I have here several situations or relationship among variables. Let's start with this one. The fare of passenger to the distance of his destination. So sometimes we are confused of identifying which one is independent and which one is the dependent variable. So we should focus on the variable that we think that it is dependent to the other one. So when we are having a fare of passenger, yung pamasahe nung pasahero and the distance ng destination niya. So there are two variables here. So pag sinabi nating distance of his destination, syempre doon nakabase yung babayaran niyang pamasahe. That's why the independent variable here is the distance of his destination, and the one that is dependent is the fare of passenger o yung magiging pamasahe niya. The other one is the cost of fish as its weight in kilograms. Okay, again, there are two variables involved here. One is weight in kilograms and the other one is cost of fish. So when we are buying fish in the market, hindi naman tayo kukuha lang hindi naman tayo dedepende sa kung ano lang yung bit-bit natin. Sasabihin natin 5 pisong ganito. That is the other let's say you have 100 pesos of bangus or what. Hindi naman siya ganun. Because when we are buying, the usual thing that we do is we tell that we need 2 kilograms, 4 kilograms. So, doon tayo nakadepende sa kung ilan yung timbang na kailangan nating bilhin. But when we are pertaining to, let's say, 150 pesos nga nito, it means that it is the other way around of buying a certain item. So, ito, independent variable here is the weight in kilograms. Okay? And the other one is the dependent variable, which is the cost of fish. Okay, so the other one is the employee's salary to the number of days he has worked. Okay, again, the salary of an employee depends on how many days he has worked. So definitely, the dependent variable here is the number of days he has worked, and the dependent variable is the employee's salary. Siyempre, kung ilan yung araw na tinrabaho mo, yun lang yung sasweldohin mo. So, that is a relationship between two variables. Another one is the area of a square to the measure of its sides. Again, based on the area, we will have the area of a square based on the measure of its sides. So, the independent variable here is the measure of the sides, and the dependent variable is the area. Okay, now, the cost of electricity of the number of the cost of electricity to the number of kilowatt-hour consumption. So again, nakadepende yung babayaran nating bill ng kuryente sa kung ano yung konsumo natin ng kuryente. So the independent variable will be kilowatt-hour consumption, and the dependent will be the cost of electricity. Okay. So as what you can see, based on the previous relationship that we had, let's look back with the cost of electricity to the number of kilowatt-hour. The more na mataas ang konsumo natin sa kuryente, na habang tumataas yung konsumo, mas malaki yung ating binabayarang electric bill. The same as what we had with the area of a square to the measure of its side. Mas malaki yung side ng square, mas malaki yung area. And mas marami yung araw, and when we are pertaining to the salary of an employee to the number of days he has worked, mas marami yung araw na kanyang tinrabaho, mas malaki yung sweldo makukuha niya. So that is what we call a direct variation. So that is a relationship between two quantities, x and y, whereas x increases, y also increases, and as y decreases, x also decreases. Okay, so that is the relationship. Habang tumataas yung value ng x, tumataas din yung y. Habang tumataas yung independent variable mo, tumataas din yung dependent variable. Okay, so if y varies directly as x, then we say that y is equal to kx, and k is called the constant of variation. Okay, as we go along with the lesson, we will be focusing on the models or the representations of the relationship between two variables or direct variation with an equation. The ratio between them is a constant. When we divide the two variables, we will be having our constant of variation. Yun yung k sa ating equation. Okay, so the size, let's have another set of variables wherein paano naman pagka nag-i-increase yung y, habang umi-increase yung isang variable, nagdi-decrease naman yung pangalawa. So the size of a pizza slices to the number of persons sharing a whole pizza. So in this case, we have the two variables, the size of pizza slices to the number of persons sharing the whole pizza. Alin ngayon ang dependent at alin ang independent? Siyempre, kung ilan kayo na mag-share at kakain dun sa pizza, yun yung independent variable natin. And yung dependent variable, that is the one that is the size of the pizza. Siyempre, habang dumadami kayo na mag-share para dun sa pizza, mas lumiliit yung hiwa ng ating pizza. Okay, number of persons needed to do a job to the number of days to finish a job. So based on here, we will be having two variables, and one is the number of person to do the job and the number of days to finish the job. So between the two, so mas marami yung gagawa or yung persons na gagawa, mas kokonti yung araw na gugugulin mo, or the fewer the days that you will spend for finishing the job. Okay, so mas maikli yung oras or yung araw na ilalaan mo para matapos yung trabaho. So the independent variable here is the number of persons needed to do a job, and the dependent variable here is the number of days to finish a job. Let's have another one. Cost per person of renting a private resort to the number of persons sharing the rent. So the two variables here will be the number of persons sharing the rent, and the other will be the cost per person of renting a private resort. So this is what we call inverse variation. Inverse variation involves a relation of two quantities, x and y, wherein as x increases, y decreases. Or when y increases, x decreases. And that their product remains a constant. If y varies inversely as x, or y is inversely proportional to x, then the equation will be y is equal to k over x, or k is equal to xy, where k is the constant of variation or constant of relationship. Okay, so that is how you will represent inverse variation in terms of an equation. Y is equal to k over x, or k is equal to xy. Okay, let's have another relationship. This is another kind of variation. So the amount of interest to the invested money and the span of time. So as what we can see here, there is a word "and" between two variables. So ibig sabihin, there are two more variables. So we have here the amount of interest, yung relationship ng amount ng interest sa invested money and span of time. So it means that there are three variables involved here. Okay, so alin ang independent variable? So we will consider the independent variable as the money invested and the span of time. So ang makikita natin dito, mas matagal nating ininvest yung money, mas malaki yung interest. Okay, so the amount of interest now will be the dependent variable. Okay, mas malaki yung perang inilalagay natin sa investment, at mas mahaba yung time na allotted natin for the investment, mas malaki yung interest. So this is another type of variation. Let's have another relationship. Volume of a box to its length, width, and height. So we have now length, width, and height as the three variables involved in the volume of a box. Okay, so the independent variable here is the length, width, and the height of a box, and the dependent variable will be the volume. Okay, so let's have that is what we call joint variation. It is a type of variation in which one variable varies directly to the product of two or more variables. Okay, so when we are to represent, let's say, the variables y is equal to k x z, this is y varies jointly as x and z. K here is our constant of relationship or constant of variation. Let's move on. The acceleration of a car to the speed and the time spent in travel. Okay, so as what you can see here, there are three variables involved. Acceleration was related to the speed and the time. So, ang independent variable natin dito ay yung speed and time. So, that is the independent. And the dependent variable is the acceleration. Mas mabilis yung takbo ng ating sasakyan, mas kokonti yung ating mas konti yung oras na mas-spend natin. And that's why yung acceleration din natin mas mataas. Okay? So, the other one is the time of travel of a car to the distance traveled and its speed. So, yung time traveled naman. So, again, the independent variable is the distance traveled and the speed. And the other one is the dependent variable here is the time. Okay, so kanina we are also pertaining to distance, speed, and time. So pwede sila magbali-baliktad depending on the word that was related to them. So ibig sabihin, eto, time traveled was related to, based on the word to, it was related to the distance and speed. lumalabas na yung distance travel at saka yung speed, yun yung independent. Minsan, laging nauuna yung ating dependent variable. Pagka merong and, ibig sabihin, yung distance traveled at saka yung speed magkasama as independent variable. Okay? So, this is what we call combined variation. Direct and inverse variations happen at the same time. So, these are relationships where a variable depends on two or more other variables. Okay? So, this could be represented, let's say you have x. X varies directly to y and inversely to z. So this will be represented by x. X is equal to k y over z, where k is our constant of variation. So that is how you will represent combined variation. Okay, now let's identify the given relationship. State if it is direct, inverse, joint, or combined variation.
Like, share, and comment your suggestions on the comment box below, and don't forget to subscribe. To get notified with our latest videos, just click the notification bell.